It's the one and only Africa Allah and the B-Team DJs by Playmaster Dr. Day. Get familiar.
You're now tuned into another episode of Being Africa Allah with the one and only Africa Allah. And today, we're going to do something a little different. I wasn't really inspired to do a mix today, so I decided to link up with a couple people and talk about coronavirus, the global pandemic that's going on. The numbers are rising all over the world. I want to introduce you to one of my good friends out of Atlanta, Georgia, Marissa. She is a journalist, a Caribbean journalist and radio personality. We have Keys from Talk About It with Keys and Land on our music channel. You guys can check them out every Tuesday. And I have a Bahamian, Mr. Kareem Pancho, who is a business owner, and I believe you also dabble in politics, right, Kareem?
Yeah, I'm actually an independent candidate. I ran last election for independent and Golden Isles, and I'm running again for Garden Hill.
All right. There's been a lot of talk about the lockdowns and the pandemic and the fact that, and the idea that the coronavirus is not a real thing. It's something that's created. I want you guys to weigh in on your opinions on what's going on.
Let's just start about, for me in my mind, in relations to where I see where we at, because outside of politics, I also started a business development firm in the country about 2012 to specifically focus on studying the economy, studying, I guess, strategies, basically looking at where we was at, where we at now, and pretty much we had the same position that we was in. We starving for jobs, ownership, as we've been doing for years. You know, you find that we still have having challenges of trying to empower Bahamians who have the potential. We talk about the brain drain, talk about trying to encourage Bahamian students studying abroad or finish studying abroad to start their own businesses versus trying to start employment. Someone like myself who finished university came on to create opportunities for Bahamians. And what we recognize is, even with the COVID, we have not even identified essential services, that there are a lot of industries that are now closing due to the surge. And we still have yet not identified essential services, industry, and what sectors that we can now shift people to, whether sanitation, more sanitation workers. We have persons that talk about COVID on the beach. We talk about how what impact health-wise would the beach have on COVID and healing. We don't talk about filtering persons in that regard. So it's a lot of confusion for me. Even in the trade industry, I have a fencing business, and where we're getting ready to launch a training initiative to create opportunities for 30 young men in Pine. We don't talk about how trade during a time when tourism is shut. You know, this is not the first time that we've had tourism fail. Tourism has always failed in the past, and there were situations or certain things that governments at that time had to do in order to keep the domestic economy strong. And these are things that it seems as if we're not leaning towards. We're always leaning towards taxation. Experience in government, we always spend millions of dollars on plans, but we don't have no follow through. It's never executed. If you go in the history of our country, you will find that we have spent millions of dollars on plans that have never surfaced, never implemented, never became policy in Parliament. And so I start to say to myself as a young man, I could complain, or I could now position myself for leadership to be a change that our country needs. Okay. We do need to have a collaboration more with international bodies as well as foreign bodies. We have to look at designing plans to empower Bahamians in foreign markets, to tap directly into foreign markets, capital markets. We have to create ways to use music and the digital platforms and different industries to tap into digital platforms to create revenues for our country for taxation. So there's so much that we could do that we're not doing, and it's just unfortunate. So that's my 5 cents.
All right, so you're looking at it more from the perspective that the industry has failed us, and not necessarily that the decisions are irrational. Now, Keys, You had made a statement on your social platforms talking about your position in regards to the lockdown. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we all know we've been on lockdown, and I've been curfews for like the past 5 months or so, and it's frustrating how me and a few of my colleagues, we've experienced it. Like, now that this lockdown is back for a minimum of 2 weeks, what's next after this? Let's say this lockdown is open after the 2 weeks, and the cases aren't widespread anymore. There's a reduction in the number of cases. Things are looking good again, and a week or two after that, there's an influx again. There's another surge. What's the next solution? Do we go back into a lockdown? And if that's the case, wouldn't that be insanity? And we know this insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So while a few people will say that, our Prime Minister is doing a bunch of foolishness, he isn't being advised properly, he's being irrational, he's a dictator, he isn't looking out for us, he's looking out for the wealthy. I share some of the same beliefs, but I also feel like maybe we could make suggestions to him instead of us just complaining all the time. Like, let's go on social media, let's type the office of the Prime Minister. Let's actually vocalize what we're feeling, and not just make crude humor or vulgar comments, but let's actually think of ways that we could have some sort of voice. But I was thinking he could look to other countries, consult with other leaders that have low cases, and see how they're progressing with life with coronavirus, with low number of cases, and see how we could implement their strategy in our nation. See what's the best step, because I don't have all the answers. I don't feel nobody has all the answers, and I honestly don't see a perfect solution with the pandemic at this point. But I do feel that some are better than others, and the lockdown clearly isn't one of them. People are hurting financially, and businesses are closing down, small businesses. And of course, tourism took the biggest hit, that's our number one industry, but that's a whole other story altogether. But it's just speaking from the financial side of it, like, it's hard. We getting a small stipend from NIB about $130 a week, which is similar to this in different parts of the world. That's not as much money, and it's like, how do we survive off that? Not just how I'm grateful or like, whatever the case may be, because the government know how to do it, but it's still, I'm a single man with a son, and it's hard for me with $130 a week from NIB. Unfortunately for me, I don't live alone, so I don't have to take on most of the bills and expenses myself. Then I think of other people, like a single mother who has maybe multiple kids and living on her own. What about her? And then, people could say, well, the landlord should take it easy on these people, but what about the landlords? They have bills and expenses too. So it's just a lot of frustration.
We hear you, we understand, and we will converse about that. Marissa, tell us about your experience with the pandemic in Atlanta, as well as the feedback that you've gotten from people throughout the Caribbean.
Sure. Before I do, can I ask your guests 2 questions?
Of course.
So, I guess Kareem, do you know anyone who has corona or had corona? So.
No, I don't know anybody with corona.
You don't? Okay. Keith, do you know anyone with corona?
That's a very interesting question. Someone said today, like, if they're in the Bahamas, the news spreads very quickly. So if there's like a car accident on mirror, within the first hour, about 1,000 people would know the exact specifics of the incident. But with coronavirus, like, we still have yet to find out about one person. So that's an interesting question.
Okay. That gives me some context for what you all was saying. So I'll respond to that. But Africa, so to your question, the cases are rising a lot in Georgia. Hell, in all of the US, it's rising exponentially. We did push to open the economy, I think, sooner than we were ready for. We didn't take the pandemic seriously. So there was this whole politicizing of the masks and just all these issues that has led to a whole bunch of cases and certain cases. In terms of the Caribbean, so I'm from Trinidad, and we were doing really well, but recently cases have been on a rise, and the theory is it was from smuggling Venezuelans into the country. It's not very but that's one of the theories there. But the bottom line is, from that one case that happened because they wanted students to go to school to prepare for what was called convention. Now see, that one student exposed 200 people, and then the cases have just been increasing since. So I know of that experience in Trinidad. I know my friends in Jamaica, cases are rising. I don't know anywhere where it's the opposite, where cases are going down. The reason why I asked you two guests about their experience with Corona, people with Corona, is because I recognize that people who have not had any experience with it tend to be on the side of let's open the economy because they have economic concerns, which I get, right? But anybody who knows somebody with Corona or who has had exposure to Corona understands that you can't spend money when you're dead, and Corona is the worst experience you have in your lifetime. I know quite a few people, I'm intimately acquainted with quite a few people who have been exposed to it. I've seen the journey personally, and I know that it is one of the worst experiences. I've seen people in and out of hospital emergency rooms not being able to breathe. And these were people who were adamant that they wanted to go back to work because they had bills to pay, right? And it is a challenging place to be in because it's the essential question is people or profits, But I think at the end of the day, you can't do anything unless you're healthy. And if we all prioritize our health and getting this pandemic under control, then the faster we get to open the economy and being able to do all the things that we're talking about in terms of paying bills, in terms of making money, all those kind of things. But because we're not on one accord and one direction and moving forward, and there's all this back and forth, this virus continues to beat us. And it's really unfortunate because in the Caribbean, in the US, we don't have resources to deal with this. In the Caribbean, I think it's worse in terms of infrastructure. So I would hate for there to be an outbreak in the Caribbean because I'm afraid to know what the results could be.
And speaking of that, globally, the cases are, as we speak, the new cases are 6,79,732 new active cases. And that's the most recent stats as of recording time, which is August 4th, 2020.
And for all the people that keep saying this thing is made up and it's a hoax, I'm just trying to understand what does that matter? Because at the end of the day, we have proof that people are dying from this. So what else do you need to know that this is a real virus? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, what else do you need? Because I know 15 people that have been exposed, 15 people that have had the coronavirus and 10 people that have died from it personally. And while they're not in the Bahamas, I know 15 people that have had it. And one of my siblings being one of them. And I cried like a baby when I found out that she had corona. So what would it take for you guys to understand the magnitude of what's going on and to understand that this is not necessarily the same coronavirus? And they said it numerous amounts of time on the, via the CDC and the World Health Organization. This is not the corona that we knew of. This is something that is different. Whether it's man-made or mutated or whatever the case may be, this is not the corona strand that we know. So we're not fighting the same corona. And while there are resources that would help us manage coronavirus in its natural form, this is a different form. So we're dealing with a whole new process. Additionally, the lockdowns are not to stop the virus itself. The lockdowns are only created so that we can get the tracing and that the people that are infected will not be exposed to other people that can potentially catch the virus. So it's to reduce the spread, not to stop it. It's to flatten the curve, because once you flatten the curve, you will have control of the situation. Right now, our ICU is overpopulated, and the nurses and doctors have decided that they're not gonna take anymore, because why? There are no protocols in place to deal with the insurgence of people that are coming in. So public safety now has an issue. The other part of it is, if we don't lock down and get a handle on it, we're currently at 2.something% of our population, and our population is only 380,000 people. We have 715 cases as of 4 p.m. on August 4th. That's 2.01% of our population now have the coronavirus. And while we have 700 islands and the virus may be spread out, we still have 2% of our population. So for every person that is exposed, that means 10 people. Every person that has the virus, that means 10 additional people have been exposed. And as Marissa stated, one person came in from Venezuela in Trinidad and ended up exposing 200 people to the virus.
They were exposed to it.
They were exposed to it. Okay, so they were exposed to it. So that just goes to show you there's just like what they say, one bad apple can spoil the whole barrel. We have to be cautious. We have to take the precaution. And yes, it is frustrating when you start hearing the bills haven't been paid for months. We haven't been able to work. Keep in mind, almost 40% of the US population is out of jobs. And travel right now is a luxury. People are not traveling, and even if they are traveling, it's not enough to sustain our economy or the economy of the entire Caribbean. And people are being selective with where they're going. So now if we now put, by our numbers rising, we now put our guests in jeopardy, because they're traveling under the assumption that we have everything under control. And American people, we love to sue, don't we, Marissa? We will sue for a common cold.
But Africa, if I could speak to that really quickly in terms of the economy, and then I would love to hear the guys. But like, one of the things that I see as an opportunity area for the world, and especially the Western world, is moving on one accord, right? Because there are all these different opinions about if this virus is real, if it's not, wear a mask, don't wear a mask, like all these different arguments. And at the end of the day, we're just prolonging our own suffering, in my opinion. Because if we do move on one accord, if we do all acknowledge that this is real, regardless of how it got here, it is real, and it is killing people. And the way to solve it, as we know right now, because there is still a guessing game, but as we know right now, at least distance is a way to solve this issue, and wearing a mask is a way to solve this issue. Then why not all of us just do what the experts are telling us for right now, so we could get closer to the point where we could actually make money and solve the other economic issues. Because at the end of the day, to your point, like, all of us are in the same situation, right? The majority of people are not making money right now. So, there has to be some level of forgiveness that comes, this is going to revamp our entire economic system anyway. But, it's like, there will be some level of forgiveness, but we only keep prolonging it by fighting each other and be like, no, we need to open up. Yes, we should keep closed. It's like all these unnecessary arguments that cause confusion, and we don't have a clear direction. My 2 cents, but would love to hear from the guys.
Well, Keys, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that COVID is a real thing. Of course, it is real. Like, I'm seeing it all over the news, all over social media. My personal feelings on it is that maybe it's a lot with it, and that's one of the biggest issues that we face. And I could be wrong, but that's how I feel. Like, it's a lot of fear-mongering. A lot of sip and back and forth behind with things like the CDC admitting that some of the COVID cases were false, and some was the flu, and you have rigged testing, and Trump saying this and Trump saying that. You don't know who to listen to, really, or not. So it's just mass panic and hysteria adding to the seriousness of COVID.
Well, when it comes to 45, anything that I take everything that he says with a grain of salt. It's not necessarily a reliable source when it comes to disseminating information.
Yeah.
And we can tell that by his vocabulary when describing incidents like this.
I kind of agree with Keys though that there is a level of fear mongering because this whole thing has been politicized.
Yes, it has.
You know, if there's been fear when it's convenient, and then it's a hoax when it's convenient. So my challenge would be to sit down or talk to someone who has experienced this firsthand, because that's the only place I think you can get facts right now, because there's so much misinformation just floating everywhere. But if you just sit down with one person who has experienced corona, I think it could impact your thought process on this.
What I wanted to ask you guys, I spoke with Africa about it earlier. And you, Marissa, have you heard of the doctor with the claims of curing COVID?
Yes, Dr. Emmanuel.
Yeah. How do you feel about the claims?
Reading the entire story, I think it was another political movement. The fact that it came from, alt-right, that was the news source. The way that entire press conference was set up, the way they answered questions, it didn't seem like a real press conference to me. And regardless, okay, so let's play devil's advocate and let's assume that there is some validity to what she's saying. There's no proof. I've heard not one so-called person that helped talk about them recovering from corona. They by one of these 350 people. There's also her history, which is a little, eyebrow raising. So there's nothing about her that makes one to listen to what she's saying.
Well, I guess what you said about her eyebrow raising stories, I read some of these too. There are people that say the media portrays those type of people as crazy. They're the most truthful type of people. So, who knows? She may be telling the truth. And actually, there's a station over here in the Bahamas, Eyewitness News. One of the reporters had an interview with her tonight, and apparently there was someone that she had with her that claimed that she was shot by COVID with the hydroxychloroquine. I can't answer this.
Yeah, that word. Yeah, we know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, being cured from COVID, I don't see the cured from COVID, because the problem isn't necessarily that we need a cure per se, but we need to be able to manage the process. And because you're going to be sick, we do not have a high mortality rate in the Bahamas, thank goodness. We haven't had a high mortality rate. I think when the mortality rate starts to increase, that's when people are going to take it serious. But for the most part, when Bahamian people get sick or Caribbean people get sick, we go into the bush and we get medicine. The reason why our African American friends are having such a bad time is that when they get sick, they go to the pharmacy, or most of them live in food deserts where they can't get fresh foods like we have. So they don't know the things like, the ginger and the lemon and all these things that help you build your immunity and fight off these diseases.
Right. Being
cured is, I think that's where the trigger word is, because it's not necessarily a cure, but it's a management, because you're sick, so you're not cured. I mean, once you go through the process, you're cured because you're done with it, right?
Yeah. Here's the part, right? And I know there's from a few Caribbean people that I've interacted with who have had COVID. Like, they still have months later. They still have issues with breathing. They still have multiple issues that they didn't even recognize was attributed to COVID until recently. Mm-hmm. And I say that to say, like, we talk about this cure, and Dr. Emmanuel will mention a cure or whatever. And my question is, and I think you were saying this, Anchor, like, what does a cure look like? Does it mean like you stop having body aches, you stop having fever? Like, I mean, you start breathing normally? Because there are people who their lungs have been screwed up because of COVID. and for the rest of their life they won't be able to breathe properly.
Look at Scarface, and this is when I knew that this COVID was real. And Scarface is the man that sings "The Hand of the Dead Body." Scarface is one of the illest, trillest gangster rappers that I've known in my entire life. Scarface was sitting on the bed, and he looked like I don't even know what kind of patient he looked like. This big brolic man, who I know to be the most gangster man, was on his knees, and he said that his kidneys failed as a result of COVID. It wasn't COVID itself that knocked him down. It was everything else that affected his system thereafter. So we're not only dealing with COVID, because once COVID happens, it starts dealing with all of the other things, all of the other ailments that you might have. You, like Marissa said, you don't even know these things are happening inside your body until this happens. So it's a little bit more than COVID, and we have to be mindful of that, which is the reason why I'm very, very, very careful with this whole thing, because, I spent the better part of my 30s with a brain tumor. And inside, I wasn't able to go outside. I wasn't able to go outside in the daytime. Like, I lived a sheltered life for the majority of my 30s. And I'm afraid of COVID. I'm afraid, because God forbid I get COVID and next thing you know, I have an aneurysm. I don't know how it's going to react to my body. We have to be mindful, and we have to not be selfish. We have to be responsible. Yes, we understand that we need to make money, but what does it profit a man to gain the world and to lose his soul or to lose his life?
Keys, I like your suggestion in terms of going to the leaders and having certain conversations. I would just say, like, with those conversations, have what you're saying backed up with facts. And I think because there's so much misinformation floating around, the facts come from talking to people who have personal experience with this. People like yourself, Africa, who have legitimate fears, like having those kind of conversations and not just focusing on the money side of it. Because we already have evidence that opening up economies too soon is causing surges in cases. I would challenge you and other leaders like yourself to the other side of the story.
All right, understood.
No, I mean, COVID is real, people. It is real. And I think the sooner we get on one accord and acknowledge that 2020 is a bust, and we just have to stay calm, stay chill, and move forward. We'll be fine.
Oh my goodness. She said 2020 is a bust. You do realize that we have sat inside for 2 seasons, right?
Yo.
Spring and summer.
That's crazy.
And someone said to me, well, at least we got Junkanoo. I said, Junkanoo? I said, baby. I said, you better start planning for summer 2021. We about to rock this for another 9 months, because even if we get healthy by the winter, we still have to have a waiting period to make sure that it's gone. Right? So I don't want people to rush out there and think that as soon as the doors open, it's time to party. Even the music industry, the film industry, nobody is working. Your favorite artists are broke right now.
Right?
Y'all. Your favorite artists are broke right now because they live check to check based on bookings and trips and stuff like that. All right? The film industry is pushing movies back because they want to get movies in theaters. Because if they put it straight to stream, they're not going to get the same type of money. So we really need to look at the economy and understand that these things that we're complaining about are luxuries. People are talking about carnival and fetes and all these things. And I understand it. I understand you want to be out. You want to feel the energy of humans. You want to whine on somebody's son, somebody's daughter. But no, sit your ass inside and stay safe. We have to think about the better good, not only for ourselves, but for our fellow man. And 2020 is a bust. Summer 2021. And I want y'all to know that I will not be acknowledging my birthday this year. 2022, we will revisit this age and we will celebrate then. So for the next 2 years, I will remain my current age and we will not acknowledge any new transition because 2021 is my do-over year, okay? I gotta do this year over because I missed it all. All right, we got a new album by Dexta Daps. It's called Vent. We're gonna get into some music real quick. I want to thank everybody for checking us out. Thank you guys for coming on and talking about the pandemic. I really wanted to talk about this because I feel like people need to get a grasp and understanding on what's really going on, and we need to also vent, and that's perfect. We're gonna go into this new album called Vent by Dexta Daps.
You're now locked into Discover Music Channel on Playmass.today.
I trusted you with everything, but now I've got to move on. You've been fooling me for too long. I believed in you.
Dexta Daps.
I believed in you.
Off the new album, Vent.
I believed in you. I never me and the last man. You fuck, I'm not stupid. Remember, say you do this before, like two twins. Nobody know in my ears, like Q-tips. Stop calling like I feel my fault. Cause if me didn't listen to the fuck of them that you said, you would've stopped and I'm back when I'm not looking. Me know why you take my fuck clown, I'm not goofy. Cause nobody can hold you. Why you woulda fuck up on me? No coulda when me want from you. You the one no man I walk on you. Better you go sit down, me can't stand you. Take the piece and things said that you are the shit, that's why me no fuck on you. Whoever you are, fuck a top on you. Fuck up on you. I trusted you with everything.
Trusted you.
But now I've got to move on. You've been fooling me for.
I know this is a little risque, right? But I have to give y'all this album preview. The visuals for this album is ridiculous.
Heartless, but more fuck you regardless. Fear demon, you God bless. When me I do this, I'm a smartness. You mother did one.
Make sure you visit DextaDaps.com. Check out all 4 episodes of Vent, the visual documentation of this particular album. They did an excellent job, too. This one right here is F you for life. Well, I might as well say fuck, right? I mean, he's saying it.
Me I fuck you for life. Me I fuck you for life. Me have choices. But a girl in my ears, but a pussy a load like nice. Baby, me never confuse all the vibes. Say she know say too big for her, but she still want fair. Say she know say me a fuck for now. She not feelings. Say she want keep me close to her, and me a sick. She say she think she a breathe. Me tell her keep it calm. You know that pussy they're mine. Me a fuck you for life. Me a fuck you for life. Love. Them fuck your tree hard for fun. Me a fuck you for life. But she feel like she da boss a little piqué. She don't want no man to tell her same busy. She say she can't roll the boy another minute. Say she fed up and she a give me a visit tonight. And every get to you get for fly. Give thanks to my father. But mama say go hard, don't wait son. Mash up everywhere you drop road.
Get familiar.
The amount of time them tell stumping and see open doors. Get a youth for average. Fuck me about bitches. Fat car for shipping. Diamonds start tripping. We be one business. Greater than Guinness. Big goal, no skimmage. On up the road, but just try no burn bridges. On up the bridges. On up the road, but just try no burn bridges. On up the bridges. On up the road, but just try no burn bridges. Me not do nothing if me don't like it. So tell me why me I go beg you since me don't like this. You see, them some rent, them I go join that piece. If I be them forgive me strength, me I go down my ditch. Get off, nothing good for say better you don't talk. That's why me rather keep a secret time, I don't like snitch. Them now go live for God to them before my 4-5 click. Come, say me don't like fish. Junk road, get a youth for average. Fuck me about bitches. Fat car for shipping. Diamonds start tripping. If you want me, phone boy, cheating. Say she have a man, but you want leave him.
Get familiar.
Ask why, she says she have reasons. She says she but she just an artist.
It's the Vent album preview.
Can't be friends. How can you make she get to
Dexter Daps is the artist.
Look like you need a no replacement. Next time we fuck me, I gotta make a statement. No missionary fuck and none of we know. Me move out of me house and live in a yard.
This one right here is called Twinkle.
On the other side, say she love it to it third time. The fuck just feels so good, you wanna cry. She love the size, but it you fantasize. She open up like a window, foot in a ceiling like a shingle. Pretty pussy just a twinkle, so our body just a tremble, so. She body up like ashes. She want the boy to ashes. Say she not give no crunchies. Middle of the night she a beg me fi come over. Me a move so fast me get pulled over. She don't want me leaving, says she need me to stay. Running out of time to stop, I'm freezing her face. Baby on the sauce, I got the keys to the safe. Yeah, overseas on a wave. She gon' let it blow, just let it breeze by the lake. She gon' bust it open, ain't no need for the bay. Yeah, 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 yeah. She want the boy to ashes. Says she not give no crunchies. Middle of the night, she a beg me fi come over. Me a move so fast, me get pulled over. Bad girl smooth like velvet. Pussy we make you love her. You coulda smooth like Spice. You know long more fuck you, me just a wait for you. Give me all.
Dex, you well bad enough to know what time it is when me nipple them print.
Just I go fly no fudge. Put in a one rob.
After that fuck yeah, you have to come back. Cause you are gonna come over.
Straight up.
Baby, me just want fuck, me no want make love. Fuck me now my birthday suit, so me just wake up.
You know if you use plan B, that pussy there A+. Spice, me just want you everything. Take you to places you never been. Candlelight roses and violin. Just while up and rub down your pretty skin.
Fuck that, me no need that. Find me G-spot, carry me na the tree top. Inna the car trunk, kitchen countertop. We fucking on the ladder till we reach the house.
Straight up.
Baby, me just want fuck, me no want make love. Fuck me now my birthday suit, so me just wake up.
You know.
Strategy
impossible. Believe me. If I can do it, you can spread your wings. Nothing is impossible. If I can do it, you can spread your wings. Blessing off a flow like a river. 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 That for them for know some man a leader. Blessing off a flow like a river. Blessing off a flow like a river. Turn them back and we turn them in a believer. Yeah. Man a fire like a rocket, you want them, I go stop it. Y'all give me profit, something fat in the traffic. Turning up the profit that I cash in my pocket. Food in the fridge, one lip a shot in my matic. See you, yeah, we at it. Every day we at it. Go get the bread, the place, so bad, and I forgot it. I will even tell you about the wild and not Jurassic. Life change, shake up pocket. Blessing off a flow like a river. 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 Massacre them know say we are leader.
Like you miss me, make me speak in a tongue like a gypsy. Oh, what a boy can't fucking know the dick. You cocky on the right fit. Bet you never buck off no figure so frisky. Any position you have to twist me, you never convince me. Conversation, fuck me like a confrontation. Need you call it desperation. Your fuck is like the best vacation. Keep me common destination. Entertain the nosy neighbor. All I gonna hear is yes, familiar.
Like I told you, it's the album preview. Dex the Depths. The album is called Vent, released July 2020. Make sure you check out dexthedepths.com. That's DEXTADAPS.com to watch the entire visualization of the album. They did an excellent job. I was very impressed with the cinematography and the storyline. It reminds me of Streets is Watching You by Jay-Z, when he did that back in I want to say what was that, like 90, 96, 97? Yeah, it gave me that vibe. So you guys check it out. And of course, you know this song, right? Breaking news, Dex the Depths, Vent is the album. Go cop that.
Right for you, I think you need to live from the boy too boring him for make you have fun. In my cute say feel you know no more time you feel for your man done. Stop fight with him, make him fight for you like Tyson. You're too nice to him, make him fight for you like Tyson. Breaking news, man, girl, I guess I got too good. Breaking news, girl, too good. Breaking news, man, girl, I guess I got too good. Breaking news, girl, too good. If you's a king, treat her like a queen. Remember, say no, the two are not like a team. Don't be the man who just can't understand him. The band with a the other go like a film. Stop fight with him, make him fight for you like Tyson, girl. You're too nice to him, the boy love him belly. Poison. Kiss a casa, too good. Breaking news. Too good. Breaking news. Man, girl, I kiss a casa, too good. Breaking news. Girl, too good. You be careful where you drop your seed because you can't expect flowers for your bloom where you water weed. You beat a girl your daughter seat. Now she go through a hot when you fast asleep. Girl, never give up on love. If your heart never broke on me, would I get it? Man, one right off, girl, feel it fair. For the rest of the story, check it.
Africa, my big sister.
Seriously, the girl them sugar them, Hey, girl, I idiot you're there with, so give me the pussy, please. Ratty set up and think you're coming for the cheese. You want to be the rice, you never want to be your peas. I am your coconut woman, me ready for your squeeze. Say she and your girl never see her without a weave. Sim, I see the beam, yeah, sing you get the keys. The only time I remember you are when him up you on your knees. You have the doctor, so run where disease. Me and beg you please.
Him think him a dish it and it a piss you off. Obviously. Him a broke your heart, I wanna
Obviously.
break your heart. Make you find out. So you left it when you pack up and gone.
Dex the Depths.
Come climb up.
Beanie Man, the king.
Pussy keep it warm. You have every reason why.
But every day me go a road, yeah. The amount of girl me see in my eyes make me want 1 girl, 2 girl, 3 girl, 4. So many girls, I still want more. Too many girls.
Big up my friend them. Triton, I see you.
1 girl, 2 girl, 3 girl, 4. So many girls, and I can't keep score.
ATL, we in the building.
Delete that story, man. I done it somewhere back when me did. Girl, your skin smooth in the dark, you a shine like a reflector. Girl, me I come make you go on bad like me.
This is what we call rhythm driven, alright?
Movie direct.
Double clutch rhythm.
Shot me shoulda you search protector. Doctor, them girl inspector. Anything you want to get, and you the money make for. No government, me work with private sector. Your friend here I want some way till she catch ya. 1 girl, 2 girl, 3 girl, 4. So many girls, I still want more. Too many girls, and I can't keep score. Why if you have it, so me cheat for me grandpa tour. 1 girl, 2 girl, 3 girl, 4. So many girls, and I can't keep score. Sell it full every day, me delete that store. Man, I done it somewhere back when me did. Me have enough y'all till me start distribute like me. I'm insecure.
Them wanna know how designer flows by the banger. I have a cut on the phone line. We chop it and damn up on myself a 4. Uptown a talk story when it's short time. Medea, the pimp, them I wonder who am I. The brother, we have your cat tip on her toe pine. In carrot, my coda call myself a gold mine. We got the keys locked down every coastline. You know, can you for some me? Try it and tell us no lily. Platinum cat on the limit. You know chop life man live it. Union tired for some way. No past and us no lily. Platinum cat on the limit. You know chop life man live it. Link up the bank clerk, collect the charge. I try to rip out them hard when they pull up. Sexy so. Hands pick up, legs pick up, take picture, make video. Clean body, girl, you're trending up. No empty cup, me pendulum. Wanna live in your place like Spanish in Mexico. Spend for you, take 10 big up. Trend it up, them envious. Me 10 feet touch. Double up and double, no L for you. You hear?
Girl, you full of class like campus. And your body hot so. No other mad stuff. Your thing loud like a magnum. One with yourself.
Go on.
They say them bad, I want to change a girl. How much than them up? I scam and them a rap. Bigger than the choppings on the map. I show you this. People say they never seen badder. Man, I run up in flan and scream Jaja. First thing we are protect the scheme. Dog tour we are on a stream. We don't even need blagger. If I dirt, then I dirt. Me no sin up, do me fear upon the earth. If I dirt, then I dirt. And if my mother head hurt, then I dirt. Straight dirt.
You better to me come from 95, me telling me that they get rid of all this misleader. You're nothing but some freedom. What really is your goal to win election? Tell me why you come around to be the next man. Is that what it should be? Or you should be changing society? What's really your goal to win election? Getting the youths a sense soul. You want buy them out for free? Not give for freedom free. Now give politician the key. Well, we rather change the lock on the door, no entrance. Who don't know get we vote no more, no mention. The youth them with them bed on the floor, free respond. Police, handcuff for your favorite respond. Black city so rights gone. KPS, tell me where the people them lights gone. As it will, one more get to use life gone. OD, them say a bad man but a police. Yeah, police brutality, them a abuse them rights like nobody see. Hawks, what am I gonna do? Fist full of them jobs to me. Full of us, them wish party that Jamaica have a manufacturer.
Hot like lava, but mind your mother. Fresh like water, shoes from Italia. Millions of dollars, call me shot caller. TG, Java, Wagwan, no lava. Me them off, I want see man falter. Run up in a we and a instant disaster. We no send boy, go dark fi get plaster. Coulda what that we hear them get charged for. Make me clean to my step, now we no no on to take. Easy to let now we no no on funny.
Guess I'm who I got me realest one. I swear to God. Countryman, and the girl them love with bad. Oh my God. Countryman, yes how we have the realest one. I swear to God. Countryman, long time.
Again. Every time you see your body, me tough no steel. Who say love no real? Mother married you, but you know the rest no deal. Put you up on the river, on the bank, but not on hill. Them send message to me, left you that rap, so you're right. Oh, girl, you pretty on me side now. It fi give it to you all night. Oh, girl, your body right and you keep it all tight.
Like, oh, when you grip on my hip and you raise up there and hide. Oh, I wanna feel you get me through the night. Oh, don't waste my time, just raise my Fahrenheit. Raise my Fahrenheit.
I got some new music for you. This one right here is a little bit of
and we turn a loose.
Big Easy.
It's the King of Trail Ride Blues, Gina Jones. And we got our girl.
DC Go Go.
Let's go.
We call it Southern Soul.
Can we turn her loose?
And this is my homegirl Tina P out of ATL, man.
Trail Ride Blues, Gina Jones. And we got our girl.
Access Granted is the label. Omen Agency. Let go, Tina.
We finna get live. Let's get live. Pretty good.
Gina Jones.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Come on.
Like my back ain't got no bone. Long as you keep me smiling, I'ma give you what you want. Sexy, yeah. Baby, I can do that. Tell me, yeah. What you gonna give me back? I'ma step it out and move my body right in all the places that I know that you like. I'ma step it out and move my body right in all the places that I know that you like. I'ma step it out and move my body right in all the places that I know that you like. I'ma step it out and move my body right in all the places that I know that you like. All the pretty girls rock, the pretty girls rock. All the pretty girls rock, the pretty girls rock. Shake it out, shake it out.
I really made it out the bando. Now I can go and cop a Lambo. This for my trappers, get your bankroll. Out of stank, grind till your wrist froze. Grind Grind till your wrist froze, grind till your wrist froze. Grind till your wrist froze, grind till your wrist froze. I was trapping like a just to put some ice on my wrist. I was copping bricks, still selling crack nicks. Made it to the rock, off a rock, that's some money been my first charge, kinda fit. Throw it up in the club, do that make me a trick. Don't wanna bust the rapper where I'm from, that's a lick. Hit him with a trick, hit him with a riddle. 4 iPhone 4s pressed in the middle. 800 grams, so he only get a little. I done got rich off of killing instrumentals. I call it perfect timing, but you call it accidental. I might relapse. I really made it out the bando. Now I can go and cop a Lambo. This for my trappers, get your bankroll. Out of stank, grind till your wrist froze. Grind till your wrist froze, grind till your wrist froze. Grind till your wrist froze, grind till your wrist froze. Grind till your wrist froze, grind till your wrist froze. Grind till my wrist froze. I took the extras from the brick and put that all on my wrist. Clean 36, them diamond dancing just like Chris. Trap it till my wrist froze, forges on the bent. Diamonds in my wife, go in the vent. I'm still in the trenches, Chanel Coco on my kicks. I'm still in the chemist, hit the 36 with phenol. Trap it out the bando, that stick ain't got no undo. I go long way Rambo, when I up, here come the ammo. I break down the pack and start passing out the samples. Virgil sent the dab and told me try out all the samples. Grind till my wrist froze, lit the like a candle. Grind in the fishbowl with I really need it.
She be bringing that love for the ladies. Yeah. Major tell her, baby, come give me something, no. Yeah. Baby, come give me something, no. The girls them, cause I can't stop loving. Love when you brace it for me, girl. Baby, come give me something, no. Yeah. Sexiness, she's so appealing. Come show me what you've been concealing. Just clear your schedule this evening, cause when you get here you won't believe in. I set it up, she get it up. Speed it up, we level up. Me little angel devil up. Next round girl ready up.
Up next for me get the text, me know where she want. She request the best cause them a style and regular. Get familiar. Jackie make you spin like popular. But this a female, me no bite like Jacqueline. All them a talk and all them a try, she say and me she love. One man the same thing, bounce by the big thing, girl and back it up. I love the way she give me, say me can't get enough. She know me tough, she bring the buff.
Baby come give me something, no.
Bring it.
Yeah. Baby come give me something.
Alright, this one right here is Coffee. Pressure.
Under the pressure, yeah, under the pressure. If your porch up and take away now, we cheat in a second, cause we all under pressure, my friend. Sometimes when you feel it, you cry down. Hurt your heart, you know, but do not make it stress, cause it happy be better, not feel living at the ghetto, feel be under the pressure, my friend. Yeah, Lord have mercy, this can't get no worse. I feel call it a curse, so me heart it a hurt me. Call it thirsty because from me birth to the first me, I feel like the father desert me. But all when the pressure erupt, me never give up. No, me never give in. I'm here, send up a prayer, feel it better living. I can't ball, so I'm
New ASAP Ferg. HD. More than you know.
Anita Baker. ODR frames, I pulled out the Maury Gators. Yeah, we do it major. Chicks flown in from Asia. God, answer prayers. Thank you. It's more than new jewels and the new baguettes. Ain't about a wristwatch and a new Patek. Couple homies like I'm still getting calls collect. Lawyer telling them it's... Had to see a therapist cause I'm mad stressed. Paranoia creeping when you grab checks. A lot of niggas burnt out from their access. Man, I'm telling you it's I guess that's why Yams had to pop pills. Stay sedated from all them niggas that's not real. I'm never faded on ball stuff, getting guap for real. I did a deal worth a couple. That's why we sip more when we toast to life. Cause tomorrow ain't promised, so go and live your life. If you got a guilty conscience, then you live in strife. Man, you gotta get it right.
ASAP Ferg.
cause I'm in a different bracket. Hanging out with Bella, but still in love with the ratchets. I'm the king of Harlem, just here preserving the pastors. Bird for everlasting. Yeah. Dinner with Ferrari cars, sitting with some model bras, talking philanthropy. Next to Mark Anthony.
Alright, mama say me can't take. Like clothes when you wear every time, different girl you want change. She don't want me no other girl, now we can get too straight. This time me have one in your Benz, next one in your range. Want me your ears. Alright, come on, settle down, down. You're not getting any younger. No, sir, come on, settle down, down. You're not getting any younger. Settle down. No, sir, mama, money, youngin' and gunning. Streets I'm running, I'm fun. Every girl bring it and come. Girl, let me pace up them tongue. Long and grown, grip it up just like my gun. Mama, I can't see myself with one girl in this world right now. No, sir, stick broken on me ears. Settle down, down. Not getting any younger.
This one right here is Jay Shepherd, a Bahamian native. It's called Miss You. Yes, sir. Big shout out to my homegirl Lori, man. DJ Excitement, I see you. Gang Lay, what's good?
I love the loving that you give me from the start. Stop talking in me heart and cost me can't sleep at night. Even though I try to erase it from my thoughts, every time I walk I feel you there by my side. I can't get you off my brain. It's like a constant pain. Only me alone I blame. Gonna go insane. You're tired of the love inside my heart and I don't know why. No cry, no dry eye. Just can't hide, I just can't. The realest love don't die. One day if she be missing me now, girl, I miss all of the things we used to do. Anytime when you want come through, we can start over, make it work and I let it flow. I miss you, girl, I miss you.
But it makes you feel it, trying things you thought were cheering. But you grow to fear it, talk they come and go like spirits. I see the signs the clearest.
And you know why? You been fucking with me since I was a small fry. And your ex-man, that's my little guy. I know some that'll kick him to the coastline. I'm on west side, but we don't show signs. You got some fake friends, they just told lines. Text, I reply, baby, till my phone die. You know he lied if he said he don't lie. I fucked up once again, and you know that I'm never too proud to beg. It's hard to admit that I made my bed, and you know I'ma always wish you the best. Look, roll inside the Benz. I fucked up once and I got you been. It's hard to admit that I made my bed, but you know I'ma always wish you the best.
Compensating for your feelings, and you know the feeling. This is what you thought would heal it, but it makes you feel it. Trying things you thought would cheer it, but you grow to fear it. Talk they come and go like spirits. I see the signs the clearest.
Bad baby, front and back baby. I hunt for heart and spirits in the grass baby. I toast it up and pour it out the glass baby. I trip it up, I double it up, I ran it up, I f***ed it up. The black and orange, I bend it up, I dapped it up. I spurred Mercedes Benz, cause my credentials up. I told her I got my millions up in rags, baby. This song get harder, goosebumps, rash, baby. I was going by the 3 Steve Nash, baby. A couple million feet, all cash, baby. I eat a little cheese and a rash, baby. I eat a little cheese like snacks.
Alright, let me get my social situation quick. Follow me everywhere on the internet. Africa Live. Hit that underscore, babe.